Hey captains, I am a retard, but it would be in your best interest to call me samurai. Today I will be suffering.
What are you doing?
I mean thoroughly enjoying the second ever battleship added to Modern Warships. The USS Missouri. Odds are, you clicked on this video for one of three reasons. 1. You're here for some gameplay to decide if it's a ship you should buy. 2. You bought it and your 16,000 gold investment is getting killed and spawn camped faster than a baby girl born in a certain Asian country. Or 3. You are trying to decide if an extra 2,000 gold is worth the separation from Yamato or if you should save another 14k for a heavy cruiser to be your first ever battleship. Let's get started. Now, for a quick history lesson, USS Missouri began her life in the Brooklyn Navy Yard in 1941 and was commissioned in mid-1944, being the last battleship ever commissioned into the U.S. Navy. She participated in a handful of shore bombardments, including the shelling of the Japanese home islands, and in 1945 bore witness to the formal surrender of Japan, which happened right on her quarterdeck. Being reactivated in the mid-1980s with her three sisters as a way to reach the Navy's quota of surface ships as a part of the 600-ship Navy. She served in the Gulf War. For those who don't know, the first Gulf War was where Saddam Hussein and his teammates got thunderclapped by a squad of 39 different nations, with Big Boy Missouri heading up the shore bombardment with millions of dollars worth of freedom deliverance systems. Now she sits as a museum in Hawaii waiting for the day aliens invade Earth. As you probably guessed from the intro, today we will be diving into the Missouri, a ship that gets too much hate and not enough love. Let's talk about stats. She has a very useful 572,000 hit points that makes just about every cruiser and even some battleships envy her. With a fair speed of 20 knots, she is pretty quick, but the downside is an object longer than the moon is wide and has the turning ability of a car with no front tires. That said, plan your maneuvers ahead and slow to 1/2 speed to make sharper turns. With only an 8 kilometers radar range and virtually no sonar, your helicopter and your teammates will be your primary spotter. Let's discuss weapons. She has a better missile layout than Massachusetts, with a 2x and a 1x, giving her the ability to effectively use anti-aircraft missiles, which is what I strongly recommend you run, or anti-aircraft and anti-sub. However, if you are engaging modern subs in a battleship from FDRS reign, then something has gone wrong and you are not going to win anyway. Her guns have considerable firepower and are decently accurate, comparing to past versions of the ship, but I have noticed her main guns sometimes take a painfully long time to reload. She makes up for that in her secondary guns, which also cause considerable damage, and they are fast reloading and fast firing. They are also accurate and useful when blind sniping if you want to seek out your targets. She is unique among ships as she is one of the only ones to carry a designated anti-aircraft gun in the form of her 40 Mike Bofors guns on the rear of the ship. This, combined with the anti-air missiles, make you easily defendable from planes and bombers. The only other downside of this ship is her relatively weak anti-air with just a single 4x slot. Here are a handful of recommended anti-air weapons. Now, you are going to watch this train wreck of a battle, and you are going to like it. First thing to do in Missouri is to start planning your turns, as it is significantly harder to turn than most ships. Her speed helps you achieve a decent position pretty fast though. If you see planes at the start, go ahead and start downing them. This will at least let the enemy CV know not to mess with you maybe. Another thing to remember is cannon shells behave very differently than grenade launchers, and the ridiculously tall hit boxes on the islands will often cause your shells to hit them instead of the enemy, so it will take some practicing, mainly knowing where your guns line up relative to the position of the ship. Secondly, you have secondaries, so even while your mains are reloading, you can keep pelting them with more and more shells. I cannot stress this enough. If you want to effectively engage anything using a battleship, you must forget the missiles. If you sit there and wait for a missile lock, your enemy will have the chance to shoot you first. Aim and fire all of your guns first, and if you are effectively on target, your missiles will be locked on by the time your guns have fired. Do not sit there and stare at the enemy waiting for a missile lock. He will shoot you with his big guns first, and he will win. Missouri has enough power in most of the important areas to still be a competitive battleship. However, with the direction of the game changing every month and a Missouri buff still absent, the ship will continue to slowly be outclassed by other battleships. But that does not mean it will ever in coming times be a terrible ship. In my Destroyer video, I highlighted a captain who knew how to work his Missouri, and although I didn't see him much, he certainly knew his ship. That is an example of a good player and a good ship. A bad player and a good ship will sink more often than a good player in a good ship. Practice this ship if you have it, and if you want to consider long and hard about all the points I raised in this video. Subscribe and share the video with your mom. This ends in a pretty bad loss, but I included it because it is a pretty darn good example of Missouri still standing up in modern fights. As you can see, with a battleship that fires as fast as this one, sighting in unspotted targets is not hard, and I can quickly cause considerable damage. The first shots on these two targets, and this Massachusetts sticking around, is very tempting to push out, but I hold back because this ship can very quickly and easily be overwhelmed. I just keep going back and forth without a care in the world. I'm being flanked until it hits me like a freight train. Perhaps better tactics or a better team could have helped. It doesn't bother me much because as far as I'm concerned, I did my part. And that's all that matters. There are going to be numerous situations where even the best ship and player in the game could not have survived, but as long as you make a genuine effort and are able to perform, you are able to effectively fight the ship.